What does the dark side of the moon, the far side, look like? Has everyone noticed that when we look at the full moon, no matter if it's spring, summer, autumn, or winter, the image on the moon always looks the same? That's because the moon only has one side facing Earth. The other side is not visible to us. So today we will talk about the dark side of the moon. In 2011, Hollywood director Michael Bay showed us at the beginning of Transformers 3 that part of a spaceship carrying the Autobots' core secrets had crashed into the moon's far side and was discovered by Armstrong when he first landed on the moon. He brought this core secret back to America. This plot device was very conspiracy theory oriented, but also quite novel, and it somewhat helped director Michael Bay recover from the declining box office performance of Transformers 2. Why can't we see the far side of the moon? In scientific terms, it's because the moon is tidally locked. This means one hemisphere of a celestial body always faces its companion's celestial body. We who live on Earth can only ever see 51% of the moon. The other 49% remains forever hidden from view. Moreover, the moon's rotation period is identical to Earth's rotation period. These coincidences and many others give off such a strong sense of being designed that it makes people wonder, is the moon a naturally formed celestial body? If you happened to pick up a wristwatch and opened it to discover an incredibly sophisticated and intricate mechanical system inside, would you consider it a masterpiece of natural coincidence? We often call the moon's far side the dark side of the moon. This isn't entirely accurate, since sunlight can reach the moon's far side when it's positioned between the sun and Earth. People call it the dark side for two reasons. First, when spacecraft travel to this far side, radio communication with Earth becomes obstructed. Second, there's a bit of conspiracy theory involved. In 1959, the Soviet Union's Lunar 3 probe first orbited the moon and sent back the first real portrait of the moon's far side. When the images were enlarged, they discovered something very strange. The photos showed what appeared to be square-shaped architectural structures. People became confused and worried. Could there possibly be aliens stationed on the moon's far side? The photographs at that time had very low resolution and couldn't show more detail, but this became relatively famous news. This sparked the beginning of conspiracy theories, with some claiming it was an alien base, others saying it was an alien spacecraft. All of this caused quite a stir and also inspired the creation of various science fiction novels. This is probably also the origin of the film Transformers 3: Dark of the Moon. This is why the term dark side of the moon became widely known. The dark side represents both an unknown world and hidden truths. In 1968, America's Apollo 8 entered lunar orbit, and the astronauts saw the moon's dark side with their own eyes. All hopeful expectations instantly vanished like smoke, because everything was just holes of various sizes, like a pockmarked face. Astronaut William Anders exclaimed in surprise, "My God! It looks like the sandbox my kid plays in, completely battered, countless holes everywhere." Through these distant photographs, people still hadn't seen what appeared to be alien bases, but it raised another question. Why is there such a dramatic difference between the moon's front and back sides? The moon's front side has some dark regions called lunar seas, which are actually low-lying areas where the rock has a relatively low reflectivity to sunlight, making them appear as dark regions when viewed from Earth. In summary, the moon's front side, the side facing Earth, is relatively smooth, while the backside is bumpy with mountains and volcanic craters. The two hemispheres of the moon having such different surface features is unprecedented among all planets in the solar system. Why is this the case? We'll provide an explanation at the end of this video. While people were doubting and having all sorts of thoughts, in July 1969, the major event that everyone on Earth knows about occurred. The manned spacecraft Apollo 11 landed on the moon for the first time. Astronaut Neil Armstrong first left human footprints on lunar territory and spoke the famous words, "That's one small step for a man, one giant leap for mankind." The pride of audiences watching their screens reached its peak at that moment. 4 months after Apollo 11's successful return, NASA wanted to launch Apollo 12, originally the backup for Apollo 11. Since Apollo 11 had already succeeded, they figured they might as well let Apollo 12 go to the moon for a little exploration. However, Apollo 12 encountered an unexpected incident, and astronauts Pete Conrad and Alan Bean landed on the moon. This incident involved the Lunar module. Let me explain Apollo's moon landing method briefly. It wasn't a spacecraft landing directly on the moon, but rather had a command module carrying a lunar module. First, it would fly to lunar orbit and then deploy the lunar module to land on the moon's surface. Astronauts would exit this lunar module to collect samples. After completing their mission, they would ride the lunar module back to the command module and return to Earth. The lunar module was like a small boat on a large ship, used by those on the large ship to reach shore. But on the return journey, the lunar module had completed its mission and became surplus equipment. Taking it back to Earth would increase weight and waste fuel. So before returning, the lunar module was jettisoned. When it was discarded, it crashed into the moon's surface. Can you guess what happened? The moon rang out with a ting sound like a bell. Since the lunar module had a seismometer attached, the seismometer showed that the moon's surface vibrated, and moreover, this vibration lasted nearly an hour before stopping. This amazed the astronauts. This situation was very similar to hitting a hollow metal sphere with an iron hammer. If the sphere were solid, the sound and vibration would be both brief and weak. It couldn't possibly last very long. Could the moon's surface be hollow metal? If the moon is hollow, this would prove it's very likely not a naturally formed celestial body. Next, Apollo 13 was launched. I heard that the US government had invested a total of $27 billion in the Apollo program that year, equivalent to over $200 billion today. By the end of 1972, there were a total of 6 successful moon landings. However, Apollo 13 encountered some problems and couldn't actually land on the moon, but accidentally made an unexpected discovery that once again confirmed the moon's vibrations. When Apollo 13 needed to return, they threw an object with greater mass than the lunar module onto the moon's surface. Even more surprisingly, instead of a ting sound, it was a twang. The moon's surface resonated with vibrations like a bronze bell, and this vibration lasted about 3 hours. At this point, both America's and the Soviet Union's interest in the moon peaked. Probes from both countries would occasionally travel to the moon to bring back some rock samples for research. But this kind of space race was really too expensive, and after some time, both countries estimated that they probably couldn't obtain any more valuable information. So this type of competition continued for over 10 years before they stopped the public displays and proceeded quietly. Although humanity's probes had been to the moon many times and brought back many samples, the moon remains a very, very big mystery to us. At the end of 2020, something strange happened. China's Chang'e 4 probe, launched to the moon's far side, encountered some strange rock formations shaped like this, some smooth cone-shaped stone pillars. NASA research specialist Dr. Moriarty found this very puzzling. He said that for such a smooth cylindrical object to form, naturally would require a very long time, needing repeated collisions plus pressure from thermal cycles, and the effects of various forms of weathering. All these effects combined might possibly create such a stone pillar. But where's the problem? The geological age of this stone pillar is very young, not old enough to have differentiated into this form. Even stranger, on October 7, 2021, Science magazine published an article titled "Age and Composition of Young Basalt on the Moon," measured from Chang'e 5 samples. While this topic might sound very strange, the article's content wasn't complicated at all. It stated that the geological age of the rock samples Chang'e 5 brought back from the moon was about 2 billion years old. The sample collection site was the lunar sea Oceanus, with an area of over 4 million square kilometers, slightly larger than India's area. These rocks looked like basalt, formed from molten lava from volcanic eruptions. The notable point is that they're nearly 1 billion years younger than the samples Apollo previously brought back. Scientists found this very strange because, according to the orthodox geological timeline of the moon, volcanic lava this young shouldn't be reasonable. One author of the article believed that according to orthodox views of geological history development, 2 billion years ago the moon had already begun cooling, and volcanic lava eruptions had rapidly declined. So when the lunar sea oceanus formed, what caused volcanic activity on the moon? This problem is truly very puzzling. One possibility is that during this time, radioactive materials remaining inside the moon, uranium, thorium, potassium, provided the necessary heat to trigger lunar volcanoes. But the puzzling thing is that the samples Chang'e brought back didn't show the existence of large amounts of these radioactive elements. Another author of the article suggested it might be due to tidal forces generated by Earth's gravity, providing the moon with a heat source that caused its volcanoes to erupt again, because 2 billion years ago, the distance between the moon and Earth was about half of what it is now, so this type of influence could have been much greater than today. The flaw in this explanation is also very clear, because if this type of tidal force existed, its influence should be global, affecting the entire moon's surface rather than just affecting one region like Oceanus. So this explanation isn't convincing either. Modern astrophysics still cannot reasonably explain these phenomena. So let's try a different way of thinking. What do other explanations say? The Mars boy Boriska, whom I'll mention in an upcoming video, revealed the mystery of the moon's origin. So if you're interested, please subscribe to get the earliest updates from me. Boriska once said, "The moon was created by a prehistoric human civilization long ago. It was brought to lunar orbit for assembly. It is a hollow sphere. If the moon is truly an artificial celestial body, this could explain too well the puzzling nature of these young rocks on the moon. That is, if you can accept that it's an artificial product, then any strange phenomenon can be explained." This is also the difficulty scientists face when studying the moon. Because scientists always reason from geological evolution models, the moon's vibration phenomenon, leading to the conclusion that the moon is hollow, makes people very puzzled. How could a planet with a rocky geological structure naturally form into such a hollow structure? If we explain that the moon is an artificial celestial body, it's very easy to explain, because if it were constructed, making it solid would waste materials, while making it hollow would save resources. Moreover, since the moon's front side always faces Earth, meteorites coming from this direction are easily pulled away by Earth's gravity, so the moon's front side isn't easily hit by meteorites in space. The backside is truly miserable. Being constantly bombarded like this would result in a pockmarked appearance. Additionally, the metal content in the moon's rocky crust is higher than Earth's, with its titanium content about 10 times that of Earth's crust, making the moon's crust harder than Earth's. Even without atmospheric protection, when hit by meteorites, it doesn't form deep holes. In summary, the moon remains an enigma to us. We still need much more research to clarify things. At the very least, considering it an artificial celestial body can clearly explain these difficult problems. The more evidence we bring back, the more this point can be proven. Speaking of this reminds me of Sherlock Holmes's famous quote, "When you eliminate the impossible, whatever remains, no matter how improbable, must be the truth." What do you think about this mystery? Let me know what you think. Thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe to the channel, and ring the notification bell to stay updated with our latest videos. If you have additional information about this case or suggestions, please leave comments below so we can discuss these events together. Goodbye, and see you again.